Do you want to master kha'zix in Wild Rift? Do you want kha'zix's best build in Wild Rift? Then you are at right place. It's your guide KBS who will be guiding you the whole video on how to master. Kha'zix is an assassin champion in League of Legends, Wild Rift, who evolves and gains new abilities as he level up. Each of his evolutions can help him in many situations, especially when killing targets that are alone. The downside is that you can't use this champion to its full potential until it has been fully evolved, which would take time and effort. If he's late with levels and items, you're in big trouble. If you are looking for a Wild Rift kha'zix building guide, you have come to the right place. Here is my version of Wild Rift kha'zix and our guide on how to play it effectively in Wild Rift. Kha'zix is an assassin champion in League of Legends, Wild Rift, who evolves and gains new abilities as he level up. Each of his evolutions can help him in many situations, especially when killing targets that are alone. The downside is that you can't use this champion to its full potential until it has been fully evolved, which would take time and effort. If he's late with levels and items, you're in big trouble. If you are looking for a Wild Rift kha'zix building guide, you have come to the right place. Here is my version of Wild Rift kha'zix and our guide on how to play it effectively in Wild Rift. So, first we will look at his skills. With his passive Unseen Threat, the enemies nearby kha'zix that are isolated will be marked. Thanks to this passive, his next basic attack against an enemy champion deals bonus magic damage and slows them for a few seconds. Let's move on to his active skills. His first skill, Taste Their Fear, deals physical damage to the target, dealing increasing damage on isolated targets. If evolved, it will return a portion of its cooldown if used against isolated targets. Kha'zix also gains extra range on his basic attacks and Taste Their Fear. Next, his second skill, Void Spike. Kha'zix fires exploding spikes that deal physical damage to enemies hit. Kha'zix is healed if he is also within the explosion radius. If evolved, Void Spike will fire 3 spikes in a cone, slow enemies hit, and reveal enemy champions hit for 2 seconds. Isolated targets are slowed for extra time. Next, his third skill, Leap. Kha'zix leaps to an area, dealing physical damage upon landing. If evolved, Leap's range increases by 200, and the cooldown resets on any champion kill or assist. And his ultimate, Void Assault. Passively, each skill rank allows Kha'zix to evolve one of his abilities, giving it a unique additional effect. When activated, Kha'zix becomes invisible, triggering Unseen Threat and increasing movement speed. If evolved, Void Assault gains increased invisibility duration and an additional use. His skill order should be skill priority: Kha'zix's Q, Taste Their Fear first, then Kha'zix's W, Void Spike, and Kha'zix's E, Leap. Before I show you the build, first let's look at his strength and weakness. Strengths. He is quite versatile with his playstyle due to how his ultimate Void Assault works. His Taste Their Fear allows him to both secure objectives quickly as well as get kills on isolated targets with ease. His evolved Leap and ultimate Void Assault lets him perform multiple outplays and escapes in situations where any other champion would probably get killed. The takedown reset is an added bonus to this ability and can be used to secure multiple kills in a short span of time. The isolation part of his kit allows him to 1v1 any champion who is side laning alone. This is especially true when it comes to dealing with squishy carry champions who are trying to catch a side wave. Next, his weaknesses. He is prone to CC abilities, especially when his Leap or ultimate Void Assault is down. Once CC''D, his squishiness allows him to be an easy target to take down. Improper usage of his Leap can get him killed on multiple occasions. The usage of the ability needs discretion, as mistiming it can prevent him from getting his resets, which can inadvertently get him killed. Kha'zix will need sufficient vision around isolated champions, as the enemy can sometimes try to bait him in and collapse on him as soon as he shows up. He will also need to clear vision, else he won't be very effective in getting kills. After knowing this, let's look at his builds and runes. Runes and spells recommended for Kha'zix. First, take Electrocute, which triggers on successful skill combos and trades, dealing bonus damage to affected enemies and increasing her burst damage. Then take Weakness, increases your team's damage to opponents slowed or with crowd control effects. Then Spirit Walker, grants additional health and slow resistance. And Pathfinder grants bonus movement speed when walking through the jungle, bushes, or the river. Or you can take Mastermind if you like, being exclusively played as a jungle, his summoner spells options are more than obvious. First is Flash, which allows you to have more offensive options when entering combat, in addition to serving as an escape tool. And Smite, the jungler's default spell. You can use its blue variation to slow down enemies and ensure kills, or its red variation in the case of going against jungles with good offense. For Smite you have two choices. Since Red Smite reduces 20% of damage taken from the target you are smiting, and you deal burn damage to them, you want to take Red Smite versus damage-dealing junglers and assassin junglers. Blue Smite gives you instant true damage and a slow, so you want to take Blue Smite versus tanks or matchups that you will win. Now for the build we have. First take Yamu's Ghostblade, which grants bonus attack damage, ability haste, and armor penetration. Its passive allows you to deal additional magic damage with each attack. Then Gluttonous Greaves, which grants Omnivampirism, giving you a better chance of surviving in fights. We recommend using it with Mercury Charm for crowd control. Next Duskblade of Drakthar, which grants bonus attack damage, cooldown reduction, and armor penetration. Also, if you attack after hiding from the enemy, your attacks will deal more damage and slow them down. Next is Dance of Death. This item not only gives a physical bonus to the vamp, but also converts 30% of the damage received into a bleed effect. This means that Kha'zix has a better chance of surviving burst damage. Next is Guardian Angel, a staple endgame item for almost every champion. Whenever Kha'zix is in critical health, he is resurrected with half of his health returned. As for the last item, you can either choose the Black Cleaver for enemies focused on armor, or the Maw of Malmortius to face opponents focused on ability. Kha'zix Gammaplay. For early game, Kha'zix is a strong early game jungler. Look to gank and go for duels frequently with the enemy. Getting an early kill or two will make the game much easier for you. Focus on securing objectives. As you're the jungler after all, make sure you try to take them as often as possible. Your champion is very good at taking them alone. While you're a strong fighter and good in the early game, you need to ensure you put time away to focus on farming and gaining gold and XP. Secure your camps as often as possible. Mid-game. As you're good at getting picks and killing isolated targets, try to ambush and assassinate enemies who are alone or walking around Summoner's Rift alone. After killing someone, make the call for a nearby objective. Try to secure the Baron or Dragon whenever possible. Securing objectives is key as a jungler during the mid-game. Continue to farm your jungle as well as gank and help your allies. It's important that you do not fall behind in gold and XP by just ganking. Late game. Flank and team fights to get on key targets with your leap. Avoid showing yourself when possible in the late game, as the element of surprise can provide a huge advantage. When ahead, look for picks by waiting in high traffic areas for an enemy to walk by. If you're able to take down the enemy mid, ADC or support, you can use their death timer to end the game, or take a major objective. Avoid dying and remain on the same side of the map as the next major objective. Do not show on the bottom side of the map if Baron is about to come up. Team fights. How to play Kha'zix in team fights depends on if you are fed, even or behind. If you are fed, you want to try to look for one-shot on enemy backline, mostly enemy mid laner or ADC. In order to one-shot enemy backline, you want to either wait for your frontline engagers to engage on enemy backline, and you follow up with your EQAA combo. But if you have weak engage, you want to look for a flank where you go either from the side or from behind, where you go in with your ulti, become invis, use Ghostblade if you have it, get in range with your evolved W to slow enemy backline, and then either walk up to them with AAQ, or use your EQAA combo on them if they are isolated. If you are even, you can either try to look for a flank and one-shot enemy backline, or you can stay together with your team and use your evolved W to slow enemy frontline and kill the enemy frontline together with your team, and once you have killed enemy frontline, you can jump into enemy backline and kill them for free. If you are behind, you just want to stay together with your team and use your W to slow enemy frontline, so your team has an easier time kiting the enemy frontline.